It's hard to believe, but in Chad, the Sahara almost looks like a garden. The bushes are very green. There's grass, a number of small pools, and they're not an oasis. So what's going on? Well, it's unimaginable, but in this part of the desert, it rains. Much to the delight of the camels and the misfortune of the drivers who are not used to driving on the wet sand. As the desert begins to take on water, wetter regions are inevitably swallowed up by floods. Abdel isn't the type to cry over his problems. The roads have been cut off, slowing down the transport of goods, so he has turned to delivering a particular product for which business is booming. However, given the wreckage, reaching your destination is a different story. When he's not at school, Hassan, his 13-year-old son, is his co-pilot. For Abdel, delivering this boat is about more than just the money. Everything in his pickup seems to be held together by divine intervention. So it's very hit or miss, mostly miss. The toolkit doesn't look up to much, but it has helped Abdel and his son restart the engine thousands of times. It's well over 35 degrees Celsius under the hood. Abdel has no way of buying a new car, so he hopes this one will last for years to come. Thanks to Abdel, his whole family has enough to eat, and the children can go to school. Sitting in his boat as it flies through the air, Hassan dreams of a shiny new car and, above all, a better future, free from hardship. Two hours and 18 kilometers later, with just 20 euros to show for it. 2 hours for 18 kilometers and just under 20 euros in your pocket. The boat was launched immediately, and there was no time to dawdle. Thousands of farmers and shoekeepers were waiting for boats. Without them, part of the country's economy would grind to a halt. Especially since Chad is a landlocked country, almost everything must travel by road. The country is suffering from unprecedented levels of flooding. 18 out of 23 provinces are underwater. Thousands of people are fleeing the rising waters. Farmers see their crops disappear. Harvests are scarce, and a submarine would be more useful in delivering them than a car. The villagers are starting to run out of food. But Chadians are not the type to give up. Their good ideas are what keep the country going. But sometimes even the greatest will in the world is no match for an unexpected twist of fate. Taking risks, that's the price you have to pay if you hope to emerge the winner on Chad's sunken roads. Storms are a daily occurrence in the town of Sa, an economic hub supplying some of the southern villages. When the rain calms down, it's time to quickly clear the road for the one lorry that will take you to the Jeke market. The skip fills up with rags, petrol cans, rice and flour. The shopkeepers smile at the prospect of earning a bit of money, but they know they'll have to put up a fight first. Well, it's not exactly the most environmentally friendly truck, but it does a lot of good work. It also serves as public transport. €4 a trip is a lot of money, as most Chadians earn around €1 a day. So it's bound to be a bit dodgy. But Norbert has eyes everywhere. It takes no fewer than 4 mechanics to transport 8 tons of goods and 5 passengers. And that's not counting Norbert and the driver. The team will be on hand to help this steel giant, which has been on the road for 60 years. And even though its last official inspection was back in France in 1981, Souleymane, the driver, has every confidence in this legend of the road. At least they both hope so. In order to ensure they are paid in full by traders, Souleymane and Norbert have to get to the Jeke market before it opens at around 8 a.m. They set off 8 hours ahead of schedule to be on the safe side. But the 125 kilometers of treacherous tracks ahead of them could easily steal those hours back.
voyez, si c'est difficile, il y a trop de secousses, des trucs comme ça, donc c'est difficile.
Unpleasant, arduous, exhausting. There's no shortage of adjectives to describe the route, and yet the trader is not discouraged. A pickup truck is in the way. It's stuck, and there's no way to get around it. Norbert only has one solution. They seem to have won the battle when
sifa derpal hinagda da derpal adil kan maragna hogada derpal adil yodina afi o kan maragna hinida almayam fada bas galna sulu. So والله سكول يا جو ناس يموتوا أنا نموت في ده بس والدير فقا هناك ده كلام نسيله ده بس الكلام قاعدين هو هناك ده الدير فقا عديل وتاتيه ده أوست أنا أقوم ده ما يدورون نسيله على هناك ده أنا تاتيه ده أوست بس.
It takes 1 hour to get the pickup out of the mud. 1 hour lost for Norbert and the shopkeepers. But the worst is yet to come. After the pickup, it's the truck's turn to be taken hostage. The truck is leaning all the way to one side, raised on the right-hand side and sinking on the left. According to one Chadian proverb, before you know where you're going, you must know where you are. And this is where Souleymane, Norbert and the shopkeepers are, planted in the earth in the middle of the heat wave. They left 8 hours early, and yet their hopes of getting to the market on time are starting to fade. Climate change is not making it any easier for Chadians to get around. Far from it. Even though oil money, which became available just 20 years ago, has enabled many roads to be resurfaced, many major routes are still little more than dirt tracks, with no infrastructure to protect them from the whims of nature. Only lorries and bush taxis stand a chance of getting through. Old machines with the advantage of containing little in the way of electronic equipment, so they can be repaired over and over again. Muhammad's lorry no longer measures his mileage, but he continues to rack up the miles without worry.
Sudani, ولكن خلاص تعالوا عربطون ندور نشبطي شب شب نمشي نشيلوا غازوال.
Muhammad offers two rates, 10 euros for economy class, or in other words, the skip. And 15 euros for business class, in the back seat. Muhammad is transporting 15 passengers to Timam, in the south of the country. Since flooding blocked the roads, the 260-kilometer journey has become entirely uncertain. And yet, the province of Salamat, to which he's heading, is arguably the most important in the country. It is the agricultural center of Chad. Despite this status, nothing is done to prevent the town being cut off from the rest of the country for the duration of each rainy season.
مشينا ناخذهم الترافاي solo le travail ils nous emportent nous voulons aller cultiver نمشي نعرتو attention ici il y a plusieurs sont morts dans cette route.
Dead for no reason. This road is the stuff of nightmares. A tomb of fatigue and stress. After just 40 minutes on the road, their first major obstacle looms before them. And it won't be the last. The bridge is submerged and the current is too strong for cars to pass. A huge traffic jam has formed and hundreds of travelers have been waiting for 24 hours for the waters to calm. Pedestrians cross at their own risk, or at least make their best attempt. As always, every cloud has a silver lining. A few crafty characters have found a way to make a bit of money selling makeshift rafts. To avoid struggling against the powerful waters, they don't swim in a straight line. These follower fish swim up the bank, where the current is weakest, and then let themselves be carried along by the waves. The work is exhausting, but the pay reflects the effort. €1.50 per person and €3 per motorbike. Since the flood began to reappear, Abdelhamid has been operating a ferry service. In fact, he was the one who developed the technique. Now that his system has been widely adopted, Abdelhamid would like to keep making a difference. This time, he wants to take things up a gear by making a ferry for cars. For cars, passage is viable for just a few hours each day when the current weakens slightly. Muhammad, driving his bush taxi, arrives just as the cars are setting off. The exact error this taxi has made. Manual labor is the only way to avoid total failure.
In the Quran, jari har. En même temps, wukin jari mini nak har dali voiture do bishila. Bishila. Le chauffeur mazabi to voiture ke ma normal la bishila. Inshallah de wadara khalas.
Each driver has their own method, like putting a mechanic in the engine to stop it packing in, or even fitting the engine with a snorkel tube so it can breathe underwater.
Donc il n'y a pas de risque de noyer l'hélice?
Non, il n'y a pas de risque.
C'est bon?
Ok, c'est bon, c'est bon.
Vous êtes prêts à repartir là?
Ok, je vais partir.
He ends up slightly out of breath regardless. This will cost him part of his profits, and as such, Mohammed would prefer to avoid it, but he's forced to give in.
Continuez. Allez.
Vous allez tenter là?
Oui.
If he turns back, he'll have to reimburse the passengers. The other bank is just 50 meters away, but halfway across, several passengers get out to reduce the load, but the pickup doesn't move. Mohammed agrees to pay for just one pusher, hoping that will be enough.
أبيان زنفر كات بس كات واللي سما كتبوا فوقها شيء ما عندك ما في لكن أنا ندور حكومة ده خليه يفكر لنا كتير بنانا بس خليه أدور لنا نجرو فوقها.
And it's going to take a little longer. Since the death of Idris Deby, the autocrat who ruled Chad for 30 years, the state's attention has been diverted by the power struggles and rebel groups that threaten it. But the people of Chad are the first to suffer. And yet, there are plenty of resources including gold, oil, diamonds and other minerals that could help boost the country's economy, strengthening its infrastructure and shielding the capital, N'Djamena, from flooding. The city was almost entirely submerged, and 100,000 people lost their homes and businesses. To survive, traders are forced to sell their goods on the roadside. In this shanty town, the water is beginning to retreat. Only the land is now saturated like a sponge. Rakié would like to take her 8 children far away from here, but these scraps of metal are all she has. Despite her misfortune, Rakié knows that she still has avoided the worst. Some of her friends have lost their homes and their jobs. Fortunately, hers was not lost to the floods. Working in an urban quarry on the outskirts of the capital, here, women and children crush construction debris and sell it to building contractors who mix it with cement. She earns an average of €1 a day. There are some men who don't abandon the women in their lives. Rakie's sons are hard at work. These little workhorses earn a few extra cents for the family. In Chad, many people live from one day to the next, not knowing whether they'll have enough to buy a meal. Like the shopkeepers who have put their trust in Norbert and Souleymane's yellow truck. They've been trapped in the mud for 2 hours now. Jeke market opens at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and they're not sure they'll make it. But their crew is not to be underestimated.
Vous avez peur, vous n'arrivez en retard?
Le marché va finir avant nous, donc on ne trouve pas le marché.
At least Norbert has enough of a network to warn his customers. No matter how you do it, the thing won't move an inch. There's only one thing left to do, but it's not going to be easy. He hopes that by reducing the truck's weight by a few tons, he'll be able to get out of the hole quickly. The skip is emptied in 2 hours. Norbert, exhausted, is sound asleep. As for his men, they never give up, despite their low wages. €30 per trip, regardless of how many hours and days they spend on the track. The mechanics lift the back end, but will it be enough? Freedom, at last.
est très souffrant et maintenant notre véhicule soit sauté, maintenant on est content. Bon, parce qu'on est très faible carrément. Là, je suis embourbé carrément.
Vous êtes embourbé, vous, à votre tour?
Oui, je suis embourbé, je suis embourbé carrément.
À la place du camion?
À la place du camion.
Between the pickup blocking the road and getting stuck in the mud, the team is 10 hours behind schedule, which means they'll now have to drive through the night and have no room for error. In Chad, no matter which direction you take, driving worry-free seems to be an impossible dream. As Mohammed travels further south and gets closer to the town of Amtiman, he starts to find himself with its wheels in the water. The water level keeps rising. This time there's no need to think about crossing. The road disappears completely. Some brave souls mistake their cars for boats. It's daring. Mohammed prefers to stop there.
وصلنا هسه خلاص وصلنا ده في درزنا خلاص سوا سوا ده بس مكان الدنجري ده بس مكان ده ما ينفع مرات يدور رابون وبيجيني يقول لك ناس انت جيتيني ده خلاص تنجتي بلا بيجيناك ده وتيار يخدموا وبلا بيجيني بخدموا وتيار عديلو باساجي ده تعبانين خليني فرتقو خمام ده جماعه خلي فرتقو شباب.
The passengers are not completely on their own. At the other end of the road, another pickup is waiting for them, working in collaboration with Mohammed. The ferrymen charge 75 euro cents per person for the crossing, a highly profitable operation. They dock 1 kilometer and 20 minutes later. If the canoe was extra, the bush taxi that comes to pick them up is included in the departure price. Only it's not at the rendezvous. Bedouin and the rest of the passengers hadn't anticipated this.
Il n'y a même pas à manger. Pas manger. Il n'y a même pas à boire. Voilà, il n'y a rien. C'est pas facile. Et surtout les petits enfants souffrent. Il y a des enfants qui les allaitent, la maman ne mange pas. Ça fait pitié aux femmes.
And they're not the only ones to find themselves stranded when their taxi arrives an hour later. Passengers from other groups try to get on board discreetly. The driver realizes that there is a problem.
Il y a des gens qui ne sont pas de l'agence aussi qui sont venus monter.
Ah bon?
Donc il y a un mélange de passagers.
Well, it seems there's no such thing as a quick profit. 5 new passengers are accepted regardless. There are now 20 of them crammed in. But the town of Amtiman is still a long way off, and it's already nearly 10 p.m.
Ça fait du bien de s'arrêter un peu? Bon, on n'a pas le choix. C'est difficile, même si on continue, on ne peut pas atteindre Amtiman.
plus de 10 heures de temps de voyage déjà. On a fait 120 km encore.
They've still got another 140 kilometers of track to tackle, and of course, the obstacles that come with it. Not everyone has the luxury of sleep, like Norbert and his passengers. After the trials and tribulations of today, they have just one thing on their minds: drive, 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 without stopping, so they can catch up and get to the Jeke market before 8 a.m. But it's not over yet. They're still more than 60 kilometers away. Norbert has 2 wives and 3 children. His partner Souleymane, 3 wives and 4 children. Neither of them can afford to miss this delivery. But as they drive on, the lorry starts to skid more and more.
Compliqué, mais para essa daqui na cura bacana vai lá conhecer o gari da essa douro. Andrei, direct boy. Direct, Andrei.
They have earned some respite, but it's one problem after another. Norbert decides to stop at a village.
Why Williams?
Everyone's upset, but they're all holding out hope that they'll make it. Because as the shopkeepers say, why complain? It's like this every week. Tomorrow, their week's wages depend on them overcoming this route. In Chat, driver is synonymous with misery and passenger with pain. Like this group trying to reach the town of Antoine. After taking the first taxi, which they had to abandon in favor of a canoe, here they are in a second pickup. At this point, they think they've reached the end of their tether, and yet once again, the car will never be able to cross.
C'est très dangereux. Si quelqu'un parle.
On a peur de traverser. On n'est pas habitué.
But they have to get going. Bedum can't turn back.
Ah ouais, chaque fois, il y a du nouveau. Il y a 2 jours, là, c'était pas comme ça. C'était pas comme ça. Ça, c'est l'avant-dernière étape. Après, ce qu'on va trouver là-bas, ça va être plus de 2 heures à 3 heures de temps dans la pirogue.
Ouais, c'est très long.
Très long.
Ce sera de soulagement comme ce qui est arrivé?
Oui, mais soulagement dans la souffrance.
On the other side of the road, Guillaume and his group changed taxis for the 3rd time. Once again, other travelers have joined their pickup, and Mamat is worried.
Oui, nous sommes 25. Oui, 10 là c'est bien, mais 4, 25 comme ça là, c'est très risquant. Avec la route là, c'est très risquant.
And he's not feeling confident. It seems irreparable, and yet the driver and his assistants are not giving up. Guillaume is at the end of his tether.
C'est décourageant, le voyage, ça fait presque 48 heures, on est en train de voyager, on n'avance pas. Nous avons des engagements à faire à Antoine, nous avons du travail à faire là-bas et on est en train de voyager, on a dépensé plus d'argent et on n'est pas arrivé.
Like Guillaume, everyone is asking themselves the same question. How long are they going to have to wait on the side of the road? To catch up, Norbert and Souleymane set off at dawn, and at the rate they're going, the driver is giving the shopkeepers hope. A burst of speed which inevitably has repercussions for those on top of the truck. Getting to the market on time isn't the only reason to put your foot down. Despite the speed, they're late. It must be said that it took them a total of 28 hours to cover 260 kilometers.
Norbert, alors, heureux d'être arrivé?
Ouais, vraiment, je suis fatigué quand même. Asada kadar hula gas mara kadar na jidda hini da gas ne barwa to walla kadar yana usalam gab team na gab nasa jina wasal hoga to asa ke ma nakdar nam su kal kidam o asada kuma mda kulo ma nakdar no kidam to anan jomo gudra na kulo kampal.
Norbert and his driver, after giving a discount to the shopkeepers for the delay, each earned 45 euros or €1.60 an hour, a meager wage compared to the difficulties they had to face. On the road to Antoine, the situation is not getting any better either. The rain has slowed down the repairs, which have already taken far too long. It's been 2 hours of waiting. Guillaume is keeping his spirits up, though it's not like he has a choice.
Vous avez jamais envie d'abandonner?
On ne peut pas abandonner. Parce que c'est notre seul moyen d'aller là-bas. Nos parents se sont là-bas.
The team is not making any progress with the repairs, and it's starting to pose a serious problem. The entrance to Amtiman is cut off by the floods, so if they miss the boat to the town, they'll have to sleep under the stars. So the less heavily laden, like Mamat, set off on foot.
On ne peut pas attendre ces voitures.
Il y a une autre traverse de l'eau là-bas, devant.
Et voici avec
l'eau empluement arrive maintenant.
Mais non, ce sont là.
Amtiman is still 15 kilometers away. Halfway there, the road is once again cut off. But luckily for them, there are motorbike taxis waiting for the customers, and there are plenty of them. Bedum is exhausted, both physically and financially, but his last few banknotes allow him to hitch a ride for the final stretch. He arrives at the town entrance well before most of the passengers. After reaching the meeting point, they have to wait once again before finding a place on a boat.
Dans ma vie, c'est la première fois que j'ai vécu ce voyage comme ça. On a mangé depuis hier et c'est maintenant qu'on mange. Ça fait 24 heures qu'on c'est ça. Hier, même heure. Aujourd'hui, même heure. Ça fait 24 heures déjà.
After 3 hours of waiting, Mamat and his group have been delivered from the road. Only 4 kilometers to go through flooded fields.
Ici, là, on a allé de 30 personnes. Regarde, on a 1000 francs ici. هنا العلم قصير لكن جاري بقدرة. وايد ما يأتوا فزراء مقبل. سوبان ووضع. وقو الجاي يأتوا جاي كيبس.
An hour's sailing later, Mamat reaches the outskirts of Amtiman. Now it's time to find a place on board a tuk-tuk. Mamat is one of the lucky ones.
Je suis content parce que je vais aller à la maison pour rendre la famille.
Whether trying to reach a large town like Amtiman or a remote village, the ordeal is the same for most Chadians. The country is immense, and developing the road network would require enormous investment by the state. Despite its considerable natural resources, Chad remains one of the poorest countries in the world, with so much still to be built.